Good morning, world!
Good morning to everyone. Today, Brian and I are on a quest.
Yes, we are on a quest for endless summertime.
I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian, and this is Cedric and Brian. All right, Cedric, before we talk about our endless summer episode, we had a lot of great comments from our last episode.
We did, our superpower episode. If you guys haven't seen that, go back 1 week, take a look at that. But we had some incredible comments because my superpower was flying. And Brian and I were thinking about physical superpowers, but some of you left some incredible comments, and here are a few right here. Someone said, a superpower can be anything as simple as letting somebody in when there's a lot of traffic, making eye contact, and just acknowledging the homeless person. Another person said she has this innate superpower to make people feel seen and heard. And I think those are all superpowers. And I always tell my students, we all have the power, the gift to give a word of praise, to lift someone up. So thank you for those comments. They were awesome.
Please share these episodes with your friends on social media, on Twitter or Facebook. That will help us grow so that we can get more content.
Yes, and make sure that you like, subscribe, and ring the bell.
All right. Okay, Cedric, before we start our quest, let's look into the history of summertime or daylight savings time. Do you know why we even have daylight savings time?
I'm not exactly sure, but if I remember correctly, it has something to do with farming and teats.
You know what? That's what most people thought. But actually, they say that farmers don't like switching the clock back and forth because when you go out and milk a cow, the cow is used to get milked at a certain time every morning. And when you change the clock, all that does is the farmer either has to get up earlier and milk the cow or get up later when it changes again. The original concept goes all the way back to Benjamin Franklin. So when he was in Paris, he wrote a paper, an economic project, where he noticed that people were burning candles. So he thought if you had extended time, then people wouldn't use fuel because it would be lighter later, people would be out and they wouldn't be in there.
That makes sense.
So that was the first concept. It wasn't really ever taken seriously, so nothing ever happened with it. In 1895, an entomologist in New Zealand noticed that when he was studying insects, it was getting dark earlier and he was getting annoyed. So he proposed that they extend, I think it was by 2 hours, the daylight so that he could study insects for a longer period of time.
So that's when it started.
Nope.
Wasn't Benjamin Franklin. Wasn't the entomologist.
Nope.
When did daylight savings time start?
Glad you asked. So then, an Englishman in 1907, William Willett, proposed it, but for a different reason. He noticed that he was an early riser.
Right.
So he'd get up early, and he noticed that people would still have their blinds closed, trying to sleep in while it was already getting light.
Okay, that's me.
Yeah, so he thought, well, let's move the time forward so that they'll get up when the sun's out and they'll actually be more productive.
Okay, so it started with William Willett.
Nope.
Wasn't Ben Franklin.
Nope.
Wasn't the bug guy.
Nope.
Wasn't William Willett.
It was not.
I'm assuming you're going to tell us on this video eventually why it started.
Well, it actually happened not too long after William Willett in 1907. But it was the Germans during World War I to save fuel, so they went back to almost the Ben Franklin reason, but they did it in wartime to save fuel during war. And then after they did that in World War I, about 70 countries adopted that, started following suit. England, the United States, everything.
So we owe daylight savings time to the Germans.
Yes, the Germans. But before we get into that, let's kind of talk about the history of time.
Okay, time.
All right? Time keeps on ticking.
Into the future.
Yes, it does. Okay, so time is actually just a construct that we made up.
Right.
I mean, time's always going.
Right.
But we like to put things into little packets.
Yeah, we made up hours and minutes
Exactly.
and
'Cause
seconds.
we want to be able to compartmentalize so that we can, I guess, make schedules.
Right.
Right? So we did that. But originally, time, before in the early 1800s and before, clocks were set, when clocks were invented, basically on the sun. When the sun was directly overhead, they called that noon, or high noon, as people call it now.
Thus the term sundial?
Yes. So the sundials would be, those were the original clocks. So noon was when that sun was directly above and that sundial was pointing directly down. So people actually, when watches were invented, you would set your watch or somebody in the town center would set their watch when noon was there, and then everybody would set their clocks accordingly.
Right.
So the problem with that, noon was at different times.
Right.
So in Wisconsin, I believe there were 38 different time zones just across one state. In 1840, London, the London train, the London Rail Company, I think it was, they set their first standard time in 1840 so that everybody would have the same time so they could schedule their transportation.
That makes sense.
Yeah. We didn't catch up, and it was United States and Canada in 1883, because of the railroads,
Right.
we did the same thing. So we would standardize, had a standardized time. So before 1883, we didn't even have a standard time in this country.
Wow. Do you feel confident to talk about CP time?
What's CP time? So let's go back to the World War I. So in World War I, so we had standardized time in 1883. In London, they had it even before. In World War I, we started to go to daylight savings time to save fuel.
Right.
Okay?
So, and it's been that way ever since, right?
Nope.
Wasn't Ben Franklin. Wasn't the bug guy. Wasn't William Willett, and it really wasn't the Germans.
Well, it was the Germans, but after World War I, at least in the U.S., it wasn't very popular to change the clocks. So they did away with that, and then counties and states could do whatever they wanted, and there was no standardized changing of the clocks. Until World War II, when FDR made endless summer in 1942.
So in World War II, because of FDR, we got our endless summer and daylight savings time stuck.
But only for about 3 years. In 1966, we passed the Uniform Time Act so that everybody would have to change their clocks at the same time. So it was the last Sunday in April until the last Sunday in October.
And that's when everybody was on the same page.
Almost. They actually had a provision where states could opt out.
So ever since that, in 1966, that's how it's been ever since till now.
Almost. During the oil embargo of 72, they actually changed the daylight saving times for a few years just during that period. Then in 1986, we standardized again, but it was a different time. This time, daylight savings time started on the first Sunday in April until the last Sunday in October. There was another change.
When did that happen?
2005.
Now we're getting pretty recent here.
Getting recent.
Okay. So what went down in 2005?
In 2005, we extended daylight saving time again
Okay.
to the first Sunday in March,
Okay.
which is coming up this next week.
This weekend.
And then it's extended all the way until the first Sunday in November.
Okay, and which we have currently now.
Yeah, and so that has been the same since 2005. So we basically have 8 months of summertime.
I like that.
I know, and I say just extend it all the way through the whole year.
Right, because we have 8 months of summertime.
Yeah, so the time change for 8 months, why not just keep it the whole time?
Yeah, why have 4 months where we're miserable?
Yeah, so those winter months, you're driving home from work and it's pitch black already.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where we want to convince you to have endless summertime.
Endless summer.
And in fact, in California, in 2018, we actually passed a bill here
I remember that.
to have summertime all year round.
Right.
And because of politics, we still don't have it. We're still going to have to set the clocks back in November again.
Now, daylight savings time, change time back and forth, is one of the things we've all done for a long time. We really don't think why we do it. But what are some of the arguments for it and what are some of the arguments against it?
I don't really see any arguments against it. I think that the energy arguments that they have been debunked. What you get in the summer, you lose in the fall. I mean, it kind of balances itself out. And now that we don't burn candles for light, there's really no reason to think. And people stay out till 2 in the morning.
It's really kind of antiquated now.
Yeah. When you change the clock back and forth, you have a higher risk of stroke.
Higher risk of stroke and about 25% risk of heart attack.
Yeah. And then insomnia goes through.
Insomnia goes through, and it is shown that statistics show, transportation departments show that more accidents happen on that Monday following the time change because people are still trying to get used to it and get adjusted to it.
Yeah. So I don't know why we keep doing this flip-flop back and forth. And
It's like everything else. As long as you do things, you've done it for so long, you don't think why you're doing it. It's just like, what's That's what we've always done.
Yeah.
So we just keep doing it without thinking about it.
But I think that's why, at least in California, overwhelmingly, and I think some other states, passed so that we could just stay on summertime, so that it is lighter later. Because even in the summer, it's great having it lighter later.
Oh, definitely.
You can stay out, it's warm. But even in the winter, when it's getting dark, like at 4, it's like, what's the point?
Right, right.
And I know the argument, and you're a teacher, is you told me an argument about the mornings, though, right, in the winter?
Right. I mean, the students have a hard time getting up as it is. If they have to get up and get to school in the dark, it's just better to have them more lively and more awake. And we even thought about pushing school back just a little bit so that they're more refreshed and more energized when they get to school.
Just start school later, then you get rid of the dark problem, and studies show that they actually seem to respond
Right.
and learn better when they're not so tired.
Right. Exactly.
I say, endless summertime forever. Let us know if you know of any other reasons why we shouldn't have endless summer. But I know you feel the way we do. Everybody wants endless summer. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
change it.
Let's get this summertime all the time through.
Right. Right.
But tell us what you think. Do you like summer all year? You live in a place. Are you watching this from Arizona where you don't have daylight savings time? Let's keep it lighter later.
Yeah. And me and Brian did this video because, like we said before, it's coming up this weekend.
Yes.
You know, you spring forward. So we thought it was timely to talk about this now. So let us know in the comment section how you feel about daylight savings time. If you think it's a valid thing to do, or you think it's kind of an antiquated thing that it's kind of outused its time. It's time for it to go by the wayside.
Leave your comments below.
Until next time, I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian. See ya.